Okay, so today we're going to be doing 3 sections. There will be 5 pages of notes that you guys turn in. So just kind of be prepared for that. So we're going to be using decimals in a shopping context, and we're just going to be practicing adding and subtracting decimals. That's kind of what I made the lesson about. So let's use what we know about decimals to make shopping decisions. Okay, so for this, you're just listening. We often use decimals when dealing with money. In these situations, sometimes we round and make estimates. And other times we calculate the numbers more precisely. Today is going to be more precisely. That's how we'll be doing it. There are many different ways we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. When we perform these computations, it's helpful to understand the meanings of the digits in the number and the properties of operations. And we're going to investigate all of these. That's going to be the focus the next month. And once again, you are in book 5. So it should say unit 5 on the top. So lesson 1. So this is the section that we're going to start with. You're going to be on page 6. So the rule for adding and subtracting decimals, this is something important that you should know. So you need to line up the decimals. That is what we mean by the rule. So you always need to know that the decimals need to be straight in line. So your example says, Claire went to a concession stand that sells pretzels for $3.25. So the pretzels are that much. The drinks are $1.85. And the popcorn is 99 cents each. She bought at least one of each item and spent no more than $10. So we cannot exceed 10. Then it gives us a scenario. Could she have purchased 2 pretzels? So I put your 2 pretzels, so you should be writing $3.25 and $3.25. 2 drinks, which is $1.85 and $1.85, and 2 bags of popcorn. So those are 99 cents. Now take note that the decimals are all in line. Notice where the 99 cents is. Notice that there's nothing on the left of that decimal. Technically, those are zeros. But we're just going to add these up, right? So if you did 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 9 plus 9, you would get 38. So remember, I need to carry there, right? I'm just reminding you how to add. And then we have 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 8 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9. And we would get 41, right? You're 4 and you're 1. And then you add up 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1, and you would get 12. Now, when you're adding and subtracting decimals, that's the easiest of all of them. All you do is you bring your decimal down. So what you need to know is as long as you line up your decimals, you just carry down your decimal point at the very end. Okay, so it would be 1218. So your answer would be no, right? So you only have $10 and it's $12.18. So you don't have enough money for that. Okay, so same scenario, but they give you a different thing that she bought, right? So now I have 1 pretzel, 1 drink, and 5 bags of popcorn. So you should start writing $3.25, $1.85, and then there should be 5 for 99 cents. So if I add up the 5, 5, and all those 9s on the very right, I get 55. And if I add up 5, 2, 8, and all those 9s, I get 60. Okay, and then if I add up 6, 3, and 1, I get 10. Right? So now you're going to bring down your decimal. And your answer, I'll write it right here because it's cutting me off down there, but that should be what it comes out to, 10.05. So does she have enough? The answer is no. She's 5 cents over. So that would not work either. Okay, so now we're going to move on. And we're moving to lesson 3. So you're going to kind of jump in your book quite a bit. And what you're looking for, is page 20. So do that for me, and I'm going to my page 2 as well. And you're looking for page 20. So it says, do the zeros matter? Okay, so remember your rule. Now, this is not in the book. This is just me doing a quick review. So remember that you have to line up the decimals. That is key. Right? So if I have this example and it is horizontally, you always want to make it look like what you see right here. Right? You always want to make it vertical. That's the only way to add, right? Well, easy, right? So what happens here is this here is missing something. That's just a 0. So 3 plus nothing, that makes 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. 6 plus 1 is 7. And then you bring down your decimal. Now here is a little different. If you have 7.1 and 0.23, this is technically a 0 right there. So 3 plus 0 is 3. Sorry, that's a 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then you have your 7. Okay, so you would get 7.33 as well. Okay, but you're not writing anything. It's just to kind of point out these place values, these zeros that are technically there that need to be accounted for. Okay, so on page 20, this is where you'll kind of pick up. It says evaluate mentally. I'm just having us practice addition. So we'll work this out. 9 plus 1 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10. 3 plus 1 is 4. And then 1 plus 0 is 1. And then you need to bring down your decimal. So your answer would be 1.400. So please write that down on page 20. Okay, so now we're on page 20 for number 2. It says decide if the equation is true or false. So you have 34.56 and some zeros. Is that equal to 34.56? The answer is true. 25 and 25.0, your answer is true. So the zeros really don't matter. They equal the same thing when they're on the ends. Now this one is a little bit different because that one, it's in the middle. So if it's in the middle, that place value matters. So this one, they're not equal. So if it's on the end, you can drop the decimal. Just like, not drop the decimal, I'm sorry. You could drop the 0 if it's on the end. But if it is in the middle, you need to account for that place value. That's what they're trying to kind of sum up for you right there. So now we're calculating sums, and you're on section 3.2, and it's the same page. So you're still on page 20. You're at the bottom. So remember your rule, line up the decimal. So here are two calculations, 0.2 plus 0.05, which is correct. Okay, so you're looking at it. Now what's happening here is their decimal is sideways or it's diagonal. Your decimal places need to look like what you see right there. So the correct one, go ahead and circle that one for me. They didn't line up the decimal. Okay, so that would be the correct one. Now you're on page 21 and you're at the top. So they have all these sums that they want you to figure out. Okay, so 5 plus nothing makes 5. 1 plus nothing is 1. 1, 0. And then you bring down your decimal. So when the decimals are lined up, you just bring them down and everything is easy. Right? So now we have this next one. 9 plus nothing is 9. 1 plus nothing is 1, 2 plus nothing is 2, and then you have your 0. So you bring down your decimal and your answer should be 0.219. Now this one, take note, this is an important one. Notice what I did. I did 10.2 and then I did 1.1. So technically that should be spaced just a little bit over. My space bar didn't go all the way I would have liked it to go, but that's okay. So 6 plus nothing is 6. 5 plus nothing is 5. So now 4 plus nothing is 4. Now the 2 and the 1, you add those and you get 3. And then 1 plus nothing is 1. And then 1 plus nothing is 1. So technically speaking, if you brought down your decimal, you would get 11.3456. That way you can see what I'm writing. Kind of messed up there. Okay, so now we're going to deal with subtracting. Okay, so now you're on page 22, and we're going to get some practice subtracting. And I know that this is kind of a weakness for some of us, okay? Subtracting is the harder of the two because you need to add zeros and you need to borrow. So it says find each difference, right? So now when you are subtracting, you do need to add your 0. Okay, that 0 absolutely has to be there because you cannot take 5 from nothing, right? So you can't take 5 from that, so you need to borrow. That becomes 10, and this becomes 2, right? So 10 minus 5 makes 5. 2 minus nothing makes 2. And then 0 minus 0 is 0. So that would be your answer, 0.25. Okay, so now we have 1.03 and 0.06. Okay, so what happens is you can't take 3 from 6, right? So this becomes 13. I'm sorry, that should be a 3. And then you borrow here, and that becomes a 9. So 13 minus 6 makes 7. 9 minus 0 is 9. And then you do 1 minus 0, which is 1. So your answer is 1.97 for C. And then if you go to B, so I kind of skipped around there. So this is the bottom of your page on page 22. We're going to subtract those. Well, you cannot do 1 minus 4, right? So you need to make that 11, and then this becomes 1. So 11 minus 4, rather, should be 7. And 1 minus 0 is 1. And then you bring down your decimal. So your answer should be 1.7. Okay, so now we're on our last section, adding and subtracting decimals with many non-zero digits. So you're on page 27 in your book. So that's where we will pick up, and we're almost done. So it says, page 27, here are 3 ways to write a multiplication calculation. What do you notice? What do you wonder? So basically what's happening is you can't just randomly put these 5s wherever you want, right? That doesn't work. That 5 technically is that, right? It's 5 1s, right? And then there's all these zeros that technically follow it. So there's no decimal for the 5. That's the problem. So please write that for number 1. Now on page 27, on number 2, it says Claire bought a photo for 17 cents and paid with a $5 bill. Look at the previous question. Which one could she have used? Okay, so the answer is going to be that first one. That first one is the correct way. So I wrote the first problem, right? And then find the amount of change that Claire should receive. So then you're going to just subtract them, right? Now you're going to need to do it. You're going to have to add some zeros, right? Because technically the number 5, 6, or 7 is technically 5.0, 6.0, 7.0 if you were to technically look at these. So we're going to add our zeros so we have some place value. Okay, so now we're going to take away this, and it's going to become 10, and this becomes 9. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 9 minus 1 is 8. And 5 minus, I'm sorry, this needs to be pulled too because of the 2 zeros. I need to pull all the way to the numbers where I have a real number, which is 5. So this would be 4. And then you bring down your decimal, and your answer is 4.83. Okay, and then here are our last ones. So decimals all around page 27, and we're going to practice these. So remember, the book gives them to you the way that you see it like that. Please rewrite it the way that I did. Okay, because that's the only way to solve this. So you have 11.3 minus 9.5. Okay, well, 3 can't be subtracted from 5. So that needs to become 13. This is going to become your 10. And then this is going to become your 0 when you borrow. So 13 minus 5 is 8. And then 10 minus 9 is 1. So let me rewrite. That should be 1.8. So you bring down your decimal there. Now we have the next letter. 3, 18, and then 94. So remember that this technically is a 0. Please add a 0 there. That way we can subtract or borrow, however you're used to doing this. So this becomes 10. This becomes 7. So 10 minus 3 is 7. 7 minus 6 is 1. 8 minus 4, well, that's 4. 1 minus 9, you can't do that. So that's going to become 11. And that's going to become a 2. So 11 minus 9 is your 2. And then your 2 minus 0 is 2. So your decimals, there's 2. So there's 2 spots, so it's right there. So 224.17. Okay, and then your last problem. You need to add 2 zeros here, right? So now you're going to borrow. So that'll be a 1. This will be a 9. This will be a 1. Okay, so 10 minus 6 is 4. 9 minus 1 is 8. And then what is that? 1 minus 1, that's 0. And then 0, and then 0. So then you bring down your decimal, and it's going to go right there. So your answer is 0.0084. So now you're going to join the meet. You're going to turn in your notes, and then we'll start something else.